Cameron from IPD to talk to you today about correcting offset to adapt more different kinds of wheels to fit your older rear-wheel drive Volvo. So specifically what we're talking about is 240s, 740s, 760s, 940s, etc. Those are the cars that are rear-wheel drive from Volvo with 4 cylinders that use about a 25mm offset wheel. They also use a 5x108 bolt pattern. Now that part of it's not that unique, but the offset, that 25mm offset, is the unique part. So today we're going to talk about how to adapt later style, more abundant Volvo wheels that have a different offset onto those earlier models. So the newer Volvo models that I just talked about are the ones like 850s, S70s, V70s, S60s, the newer ones. Now those also use a 5x108 bolt pattern, and they use the same hub bore of a 65.1. So the only difference between the application of fitting those on, say, a 240 or 740 is just the offset, which is how far inboard or outboard they sit. And on those later cars, the wheels actually have a higher offset, meaning that the mating surface to the hub is a different distance from the center line of the wheel. And in this case, they sit further inboard. So to correct that, we can actually use this nice little piece. This is from HandR, and it's a 25mm wheel spacer. And what this does is bolts onto your hub and ends up taking your hub out that much further so that you can take the later style wheels with the higher offset and bolt them on here. And essentially you end up correcting the offset. So for simple number's sake, let's say we need a 25mm offset and we have a wheel that's a 50mm offset. By adding this spacer to the back of the wheel, you are essentially changing the offset to 25mm. Now there's of course small variances depending upon the wheel and the size and all that that will determine whether or not it will fit, but the basics of it is correcting the offset with these HandR spacers. Alright, so now let's talk about how these install on the vehicle. Now these are come in pairs from HandR, and they're sold as pairs, so if you wanted to do all 4 of your wheels, you will need to order 2 pairs, so be aware of that. And in the package you'll get 2 of these, which are a nice 25mm thick spacers from HandR. Now they already have really nice grade 10.9 studs pressed in, so these are just ready to install. They also come with these nice little shorty acorn style lug nuts. And the reason they come with this is because these are used not to attach your wheel to the spacer here, but to attach the spacer to the hub. Because we've got our studs sticking out of our hub, they're going to engage these holes. So essentially all we do is take this, set it on there, and through all these holes is where those studs are going to stick, and these nice little low profile acorn nuts thread there and sit flush and a little bit lower than the surface, so that even once these are attached to that hub, you have a nice flat even surface to then attach your wheel to. So all you're doing then once these are on is essentially changing your bolt pattern and turning them a little bit so that you've got these now as your main studs that you're attaching your wheel to. And this just gets sandwiched between the wheel and the hub. Now these from HandR come with a metric threaded stud in them, and the included lug nuts that attach these to the hub are also metric. Now if you have a 7 Series car or a 9 Series car, like a 740, 760, 940, etc., those are going to be a direct fit because those come from Volvo with a metric threaded stud and lug nut combination. Now, why Volvo did this with 240, don't ask me, I don't know. But they used an SAE threaded lug nut on those. Now that doesn't mean you can't use these, you still can. But what it does mean is that you're going to have a couple additional parts to use these. Nothing major, but just a couple things. Now this bolts onto the hub the same way on a 240, but what you'll have to use is some SAE threaded acorn lug nuts in these to bolt this down. Now if your car currently has steel wheels, that's the style that should be on there already, and you can use those with this. If you don't have that style or you just want brand new ones, we do carry fresh brand new SAE threaded little acorn style lug nuts that will work on this. The other consideration is that now, once these are bolted onto your hub, your wheels are going to attach to these studs, which are a metric threaded. Also, no big deal. Goes right on, but it is something to be aware of because you'll now need to use metric threaded lug nuts to attach your wheel to this as this gets sandwiched in between. So SAE acorn nuts to mount this to your hub, metric threaded lug nuts to mount your wheel to this hub, or to the spacer rather. So that's the gist of how these spacers work. They're nothing crazy complicated, they're a pretty easy install and they're pretty simple, really nice pieces from HandR, all TUV approved and everything, so nothing to worry about as far as safety goes. The nice thing about these two is this really opens up a door for options for wheels for your older model Volvo. Now, while it might be tough to find something that's a direct bolt-on fit for your 240 or 740, adding these to the equation can open up many more doors and many more options. That means that a lot of the wheels that other manufacturers and us make for things like S60s and V70s can now be workable on your 240, 740, 940, etc. So if you have questions on how these work, install questions, if you want to know what type of wheels we offer for later model Volvos that will now work on your earlier car in conjunction with these, give us a call or check our website at ipdusa.com.